This is the plaintiff, Robert. He says he hired the defendant to do some stonework in his Zen meditation garden, and the guy got the wrong color stones. The defendant refuses to correct his mistake, and he's here suing him for the $615.56 he's owed. This is the defendant, Christopher Jensen. He says he just delivered the 8,000 pounds of stone. The plaintiff ordered the color. He has no ill will against the plaintiff, but he didn't make the mistake. The plaintiff did. He's accused of being heavy-handed. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $250 for delivering the stone.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff hired the defendant to do some stonework in his Zen meditation garden and says that the guy botched the job big time. But the defendant says that all he was hired to do was deliver 8,000 pounds of rock, and that's exactly what he did. It's the case of everybody must get
Litigants
stoned.
have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Robert, you're suing Mr. Jensen for money that you're out for 2 pallets of stone, which you say are the wrong ones, and it's his fault. Tell me about your project.
I had a 24-foot swimming pool removed from my backyard last spring. The project would be a round meditation garden with a wall, about approximately a 1-foot wall around it. There was a wall built about half the height of what I wanted. Then Mr. Jensen came in. He did a great job bringing in stones, crushed rock, building the garden space inside of it. When that was completed, we were on good terms. I paid him the full amount requested, and he said he could help me. He could complete the wall that had been begun around the garden.
Why was the wall half done?
I had run out of stone. The mason I had ran out of stone.
Okay, and you didn't have the funds to buy more stone?
Well, no, I couldn't get matching stone. It was difficult to get matching stone.
Oh, okay.
At that time, I was only using one supplier that I knew of, and they didn't have the stone in stock. There it is.
Okay, yeah. All right, so go on.
Mr. Jensen said that he could complete the wall for me. We negotiated a price. It all sounded good. He asked me to call in the order to a landscape supply yard in his town. I called in the order. I ordered Pennsylvania bluestone. I understand the different yards have different names, but I was looking for, as you see in the picture, a bluestone. On a Tuesday morning, I don't have the exact date, June 24th, whatever, I was at work. Mr. Jensen called me. He said, "Bob, the stone they have here isn't the stone that we need for your wall. This isn't right." And I said, "Well, you know, you're there on site. You've been to my yard. You've seen the stone. You worked over it, around it for 3 days. You know exactly what I'm looking for. So pick out the stone that we need."
Mr. Jensen, what was wrong with the stone?
Ma'am, most of what the gentleman said is highly accurate, except for the fact that, you know, he had called me and said, I picked out the stone. Can you go get it? And I said, I'd be happy to. And I went down and I got it. It was tagged. He paid for it with the credit card. You know, he did the transaction.
But
with
what
the
was wrong?
yard.
Okay, hold on one second. You're not answering my question. He had just said that you called him from there and said, wait, this is the wrong stone. What was wrong with the stone? What did you call him about? What did you say? What was wrong with the stone?
I don't believe I did. I called him in regards to picking it up and paying for it, but he had tagged it out.
Okay, so you had nothing to do with selecting the stone?
No, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Robert, according to you, he says the one you picked is wrong, let me pick another. He denies that. Is there any proof of that? Do you have texts or emails or any proof?
That was through phone calls, so I don't have proof of that. We were back.
So he brings the stones to your house, and then what happens? I
came home, I looked, I said, oh my God, these stones are totally wrong. I immediately called him and texted him and said, you know, these stones absolutely don't work. I don't know how he didn't see that. He delivered the stones, as you see in one picture, like within 1 foot of where the wall is. I don't see how he could have not seen that and why he continued to unload the stones on my yard when he could see that they didn't match. Those stones are called Those are called colonial gray wall stone. I wouldn't have ordered a gray wall stone. It was
Yes, I understand, but according to him, you hired him to work at $250 a day, and he spent a day going over there, picking up the stones and bringing them to you, right? Now, the stones are wrong, and if they completed your order with the wrong stones, that's between you and the people you bought the stones from. You know, you're going to have to prove what you're saying, which is that a guy who's hired by you, after you pick out the stones and you say what you want and you pay with your credit card and it's your order, he turns around, changes your whole order, so the fact that it's the wrong color's on him. But now what I'm trying to understand is, I see from your text that there's a way to return the stones. You can return them within 30 days. Is that correct?
60 days.
60 days? Why didn't you just return them?
Well, myself, two reasons. One being that I don't have a truck big enough to return the stones. The other, because they wanted the stones returned on the pallets. We're talking 1.5 tons of stones. The other reason being that he still has a 0.5 ton of my stones, so I didn't have all the stones to return.
Right, but you could have, okay, that would have been much easier than what ends up happening. What ends up happening is what? You don't like the stones, what do?
I asked him to return the stones.
And what did he say?
Well, you'll see in the text that he asked for $250 to return the stones. He says,
dropped off a pallet and a half. We'll meet with you tomorrow. And then I guess you guys must have communicated otherwise, because you say $250 to get the wrong stones delivered. And then you say the company would have delivered them for $65. I don't know why you didn't have the company deliver them. I remember agreeing to $1,200 to build the wall. I don't remember agreeing to a delivery fee, but now you've got me over a barrel, right? Where are you saying you changed the color and this new color doesn't work? Where's all that? Why can't you just call the company and tell them to come pick them up if they only charge $65 for a trip? You're suing him for $615.56. You want him to pay for the cost of the stones because, according to you, the time has run out to return the stones, right?
Right.
But what efforts did you make to get the stones returned? Hiring somebody else if he didn't show up. I see that there was an agreement by you with him in August to pick up the stones and return them. What happened with that, Mr. Jensen?
We came to an agreement with that, Judge. I was going to go down and pick up the stones. And Judge, by the way, it was $500 a day, and I worked half a day delivering the stones. It came out to $250, so that is correct. My backhoe only picks up like 2,200 pounds. There was 2 pallets, so I had to unload 1 pallet in my driveway, which is still there. And the gentleman's welcome to the stone. I'm not withholding the stone, okay? So I had to break down.
Well, you haven't delivered it. Stop. You haven't delivered it, have you?
No, ma'am. I delivered half of. There were 2 pallets.
No, I understand, but you need to stop. You need to return what you have, because if your position in this case is I don't owe you anything, you owe me $250 for my labor, then I expect that those stones at your home will be delivered to him. They should have already been delivered to him. If your position is these are your stones, I have nothing to do with it, pay me for my troubles, then why haven't you delivered the stones already to his house so that he can return them?
That would have been another day. Yes, ma'am. That would have been another day's work. He didn't pay me, okay? And I couldn't carry legally the weight of 2 pallets of stone with the backhoe to dispense the stone in his backyard.
That's a you problem. You can't have half the guy's supplies and then say, but I don't owe you anything for supplies. In a case where you're being sued for the cost of the supplies. You see that, right? That at some point you needed to go ahead and go and give him back all his stuff, and then you could say, hey, you owe me $500 or whatever, but you can't keep his supplies in a case where you're being sued for the cost of the supplies and then say, I don't owe you anything for supplies, but yeah, I never finished delivering the stones.
I do respect that, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I see in the text where you agree to go ahead and go with him, get the stones returned, and pick out the right stones. What happened with that?
I wanted to be paid the $350, the $200 for delivering the stone, and then I think I told him $100. I was trying to be reasonable, and I would pick up the stone for $100. You know, I was wanting to work with the gentleman, but he said, I'm not paying you anything, and I'm like, well, okay. But by the way, it's his stone. If he wanted to have JJ come pick it up for the $65 and return it, they would have done that. I wouldn't have had.
No, he can't come get it. No, you're asking to. No, because at best, you got hired to deliver the stones. And that's what your counterclaim is for. And yet you kept the supplies.
Yes, ma'am. But I never told him he couldn't come
and you
get
made
it.
And you made a plan with him that for $100, you would go with him, return it, and you had a date and everything. Everything was set. And why didn't that happen? What did he tell you, Mr. Robert, for why that didn't happen?
There were several dates sent where he was supposed to come. He told me he had low blood sugar one day. He told me he had a flat tire one day. He told me he had to respond to a mold emergency on Cape Cod one day. Some other days he just didn't show up. I spent the whole weekend home once waiting for him, and he never showed up an entire weekend.
How much was the agreed upon price per day for him to work, Mr. Robert?
That's a point I'd like to make. The agreed upon price was a total price for the job. It wasn't a per day cost. There was no price particularly for delivery. It was an entire estimate for the entire job, which I believe was $1,200.
Yeah, what evidence do you have that there was an agreement to pay you $500 a day? Because I see in the text the opposite of that, an agreement to have the wall built for a set price, the $1,200. That's what your text says.
Welcome back to the People's Court. So who's stonewalling here? Let's find out, because Judge Millian is about to gavel down this case. We're going back into the courtroom.
There was an agreed price for the $1,200 for the wall, okay? But anytime the tractor came into play with the backhoe, when I did all the previous work and when I was delivering the stone, when I had to bring the backhoe down there, I told him $250 for half a day and $500 for the full day with the backhoe involved. With the backhoe
involved, and the backhoe was involved in picking up the stones. How?
You're missing the point, ma'am, and I'm trying to explain it to you.
No, you're missing the point. You are absolutely missing the point, and let me explain to you how you're missing the point.
Okay.
All right? For you to get your counterclaim of $250, which you have always said is because of half a day's work, okay? You've never mentioned the backhoe being involved. You need to be able to prove to me that he agreed to pay you $250 for the one thing that you did, which is deliver the stones. Over and over in your answer to the complaint, you say, I delivered the stones. I delivered the stones. That's all that happened. Yes, he's not proving that you changed the color of the stones, but you have a counterclaim for $250 saying that you're owed that. You need to prove it. Just like I tell him to prove it, you prove it. And the answer to that is you cannot, because you say one thing in your answer to the complaint and in your text, which is, I don't work for free. You owe me that for working half a day. And now you're telling me for the first time, oh, that's because my backhoe came into play. So that's why he owes me that, which you also don't have in writing. What you were saying is not supported by the only evidence I have between you guys, which are the texts. And in the text, you say the whole job is $1,200. You don't say that's part of the job and then it'll cost you $500 every day that my backhoe's involved. There's none of that. So that's not truthful. And when you, Mr. Robert, tell me that he changed the color of the order, you have no proof of that.
Could I speak to that? I think I might.
Go ahead.
I have a text that I sent him. I said, the 2 pallets of PA, meaning Pennsylvania quarry mix, are ordered.
I don't care. I'm sorry. Does that show that he changed the color, yes or no?
Well, it does, because I ordered PA quarry mix, and he came back with a colonial gray wall stone.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So hold still. The 2 pallets of Pennsylvania quarry mix are ordered. How does that prove that he's the one who told you to order that? And what was that other document you wanted to show me?
The reason I ordered it is because this is what the other supplier called it, was PA quarry mix.
Right, but that doesn't say, stop. That doesn't prove that he's the one who decided to call it that. And, you know, shame on you if you're not going down to the store to see what color you're ordering. That's on you. If you can't prove he changed the color, then that's not on him. Now, Mr. Robert, explain to me why it is that you have allowed the date for the return to pass without returning the stones that you have?
Well, I can tell two reasons. One, you've heard from Chris, it takes a lot of equipment to move those stones. And second,
right, no, but I'm not talking about you yourself doing it. I'm talking about you calling the store and asking them to come pick it up.
I don't think they would have. I mean, you're right. I didn't ask.
What, says who? You say that in your text yourself. When you're outraged that he's trying to charge you $250 for delivering them, you say that they would have delivered it for $65.
They would have delivered. They delivered. I don't believe.
Oh,
I don't have.
You don't know because you never bothered. You just let there and you just sat there and let the time expire. Okay, well, that's on you. All right. So you've got one pallet. He has another.
Could we also address the fact that he made a purchase on my credit card that I didn't authorize?
He bought knee pads.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk to me about that.
Well, there it is. I mean, when he sent me a copy of the receipt, I texted him. I said, "What's up with the $45 for knee pads?" He has never to this day answered that question to me.
I don't know. If he needs them, he needs to buy them himself. Why did you buy knee pads on this guy's nickel?
It was just safety equipment to do the job. If that's the case, I'll pay for the knee pads, Judge. I think I actually left them in his garage, but if that's not the case,
are the pads in your house, Mr. Robert, or no?
No, my house was closed. I never saw him that day. I haven't seen him since he bought those pads. He wouldn't have had access to my house that day. I don't know why he would have left a brand new pair of knee pads in my yard. I haven't seen them.
As far as I'm concerned, the defendant has complicated this further by keeping half of the supplies. So when the plaintiff sues the defendant for supplies that he is arguing the defendant picked out incorrectly, I am not able to determine that he picked it out incorrectly versus you picked it out incorrectly. However, he has half of the supplies. If we calculate the figures for how much each pallet costs, each pallet is $290.71. I believe that you, Mr. Robert, had an obligation to mitigate your own damages and attempt to have some kind of return on the wrong color. If you didn't, you didn't. That doesn't mean he has to pay for it. But I do believe that he owes you $324.85 for the knee pads and the pallets that he kept at his place. Now, the only thing he's done of service to you is bring you the stones that he did bring you. And then I have to decide what you should pay him for doing that service, because there is a cost to doing that service, time and sweat and trouble. You, Mr. Jensen, are unable to prove to me that what you should have been paid for it, and you, Mr. Robert, are unable to prove to me that you weren't supposed to pay anything for it. I understand that there was a price for a job, but the job didn't happen. So now I've got to figure out what the work that did happen is worth. And there's only one work that happened, which is the delivery of stones that I don't believe you've proven are a wrong color thanks to him. So I'm going to, from the money I say he owes you for the stones and the knee pads, deduct $100 for his delivery. And I am going to order him to pay you $224.85, which at the same time takes care of his counterclaim. There's no proof you owe him $250, so the net judgment between you two is $224.85. Verdict for the plaintiff. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure either party will be happy with the outcome. Mr. Jensen has to give a little over $200 back to Mr. Robert. Let's talk to Mr. Jensen first. Yet, would you explain to me why you still have, one pallet at your house?
My machine is only so big, but it's small enough to get in his backyard. Where the judge didn't understand is $65 as they come and drop it off at the curb. They're not going to put it on smaller pallets and bring it in the backyard with the backhoe.
That's an interesting point. They would have only dropped it at the curb. Well, that's interesting for $65. Okay, Mr. Robert, Robert, I'm sure you're not too thrilled, but what are you thinking about the judge's decision?
Yes, he keeps saying that J&J would have left the stones on the curb, but they have a Bobcat with pneumatic tires, and they put them exactly on my yard, exactly where I wanted them.
All right.
That's how it works.
Bottom line question is, you never got your Zen garden done yet. Hadn't been done yet, has it? Or has it?
No. I still have money tied up in those rocks. I'm waiting.
Well, you get it next summer, hopefully. Okay?
Yeah.
All
okay.
right. Well, good luck to you. Thank you very much. All right. Kind of an involved case here. Let's see what the judges have to say about it.
Sometimes things, when you're doing work around your house, remodeling projects and that, certain things are kind of non-delegable. You're not going to turn them over to somebody else. I know you in a million years would never let somebody else pick out tile, stone, brick, anything to match something that you've already started. Am I right?
Seriously, just like a 20-minute ride to the quarry, you couldn't do that to just figure out, to pick the exact thing that you wanted.
You can't delegate that.
You can't delegate that stuff,
or it's just not going to get done.
Especially something so heavy and complicated to bring to you.
I have to tell you, you found kind of a middle ground here, and you found a judgment partially in favor of the plaintiff. I found that the defendant's testimony was suspect to me. When it comes time to try to return the stone and try to make things right effectively, all of a sudden he's not showing up. He's giving excuses. He's sick this day. He's got a flat tire. He's got a mold emergency in Hyannis or wherever it is. And I think I would have faded that heat onto him and maybe made a finding that the plaintiff should have recovered the full $615.
Interesting.
But you found it was a smaller number.
I just felt like the plaintiff had the wherewithal to pick up a phone and call J&J and get them to pick it up for $65, he says. So
or mitigate his damage.
But the truth of the matter is that what swung it for me was just the fact that it got messy thanks to him, the defendant, because he kept a pallet. So how is the plaintiff going to mitigate his damages on that pallet? It's somewhere else. Oh, come pick it up. Yeah, really? That's not how that worked.
He's got hostages.
Yeah, he's got hostages.
In the form of those stones in his own driveway.
Right.
So Xavier wants to know this. Hey, Harvey, I'm 11 years old and watch the People's Court daily. Thank you, Xavier. Why aren't public places taking action against people not wearing masks? If more people were held accountable, then the cases would go down. Man, I couldn't agree with you more. Here's the problem. A lot of states don't have actual penalties if you don't. And the other problem is law enforcement doesn't have the manpower to stop people, arrest them, cite them every time they see somebody without a mask. But I'm with you, my friend, because if people don't wear masks, we're never going to get over this horrible virus. We'll see you next time.